we go through so much like trauma, trauma and heartbreak. I don't want to share too much, but hi everyone, this is Rosé and this is For the Record. My album Rosie is about myself living through my 20s. A few little stories about what I chit chat about with me and my friends. A cute one. Here it is, look. So I started the very first session about a little over a year ago. I was curious as to how it would be like to be in the studio for my own songs, and I wanted to learn more about the songwriting process. But then those songs started to stack up and my friends and family encouraged me to keep going back to work on it and create it into an album, which it is. That's exactly what happened. I'm proud of myself that it's out. I'm very excited for everyone to hear it. For me, I think it usually starts with a story. It just starts with a good chit chat. You get to the studio and you're like, somebody always asks me, how's life? They're all friends, so I haven't seen them for a few days or a week or so, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this happened, and I'd just start talking about it, and we'd come across like a phrase that we've just said. And I'd like, for example, a Game Boy, I'd be like, would just always be playing games. He's just such a Game Boy, and be like, I'd say like Game Boy, and somebody would be like, Game Boy? Okay, let's do that. And the Game Boy, like, what could we write about that? Like, let's reference like, you know, what we say about games and stuff. Game Boy was actually almost like at the end. It's like the third last song that we wrote for the album, or second last song actually. The first song was actually Vampire Holly. That's not in the official one. It's in like, we have like a whole separate thing for Vampire Holly version of the album. But Vampire Holly was the first one I wrote. Like 3-4 years before that, I wrote Dance All Night, like years back when I came. So that one's a little separate, but then, you know, when we just started the full process, it was Vampire Holly that kind of got me into the full year of writing it. I knew it was a fun song, but it kind of set, again, differently to the rest of the album. So I was kind of a little hesitant, and which is why I feel like I was very lucky enough to come across Bruno to jump on it, because, you know, it's its own like world, and it's something I think I can do with Bruno, and like I can just be that version of myself in that world, and it's so much fun. When he said he would jump on it, I was like, this is perfect. And we were still contemplating if it was going to be like second single or first, and then I remember after like the video shoot and everything, it felt so good that we were like, this has to just be the beginning. We need to like start it off with a big energy, and I think it was a really good idea to do that. When I first found out that he was going to join, I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to get too excited because just in case. It didn't feel real for a good second. And I think like a few days later, once it actually settled in, I called my friend back in Korea, and I was like, he's going to jump on the song. And my friend was like, this is crazy, Rosie, it's done. This is insane, like this is what, and my friend was like, you manifested this. Because a year back, I'd become a fan and I would literally listen to his songs every day, and somehow this happened. So my friend was like, you manifested this is crazy. And I was like, right? And I think like, when something really good happens to me, I'm not like usually the first to be like, yay! I kind of wait for it to settle in. That's exactly what happened, and my friend was freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I've said it before, but I haven't really had a video shoot that felt that fun in my life. I felt like I just had to rock up in a look. He was like, Rosie, do this, Rosie, do that. I'm like, oh, okay. And I just let go of everything, and it was so much fun. There's a lot of scenes where I was just laughing so hard. You can't really see it on screen, but it was just funny. It's exactly what, if you watch it, that's exactly what it was like. Isn't it lonely? I feel like when we wrote that song, it was just so impactful. I remember after we wrote it, like instantly I was like, this is the single. I think it's just like a little umbrella over all the songs. It kind of hugs everything. Like it feels big, but it's also very vulnerable. Don't exactly know why it felt right, A few people did disagree, but I still went, can we just put that at the top? It just felt right. So I don't know if I can explain it properly. Maybe one day I'll be like, oh, that's why I did it. And it might also just be as simple as number one song, number one girl, maybe, but it just felt right. I like the phrases like, I need it and I don't know why. Usually like we're trained to be like, no, I don't need people's approval. No, I'm good. These are thoughts that I had felt and didn't want to admit and didn't want to tell anyone about. But the fact that we pushed through that and that we could write that in a song in hopes that other people could possibly relate to it, I'm really proud that we've got that in the song. And I'm happy because there's a song that sounds like that exists in the world. Because I feel like most songs are like, you have to be strong, you gotta be independent and don't care about that. But I do at the end of the day at one point in my life, once a month maybe, I do think, please just tell me I'm good enough. I feel that. And so to have a song that represents that, I'm really happy about that. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you. I'd been wanting to write that song for a long time. Like this song that just describes this certain scenario. Like we wrote all these songs leading up to it, but I was searching for this one song that like kind of hugged everything. And when we wrote it, I was like, finally, I got it done. I can kind of move on from it. We wrote Game Boy after that, but then ever since we wrote Game Boy, I kind of never dived back into that story again. And I could finally let it go. I didn't have to bring it up again in every studio session. I think it only made sense to have that come out with the album because it hugs the rest of the songs, I feel like. The bridge was really fun to record. It did seem like a difficult part to record, but I remember just recording it. It felt so like, I felt like I was like getting it out my chest, and it's like fun. If you listen to it, you would want to sing along to it. I think that part was definitely fun to record. So you're like shouting. It feels like you're shouting at the guy. And you're like, yes! The easiest song to write? That's a good question. Call at the End was a song we wrote after like a whole other session. We wrote a whole song. We were about to leave. And then again, I like said something and like I threw it out there. And then we were like, oh my God, we have to write the song before we leave. And yeah, that was Call at the End. It was like a phrase. And then we wrote the whole song in like, I would say 2 to 3 hours. And that was the quickest song I think we wrote. Difficult is only difficult when you don't have enough ideas. I feel like even if it was really heartbreaking, the more heartbreaking it was, the more things we had to write about it, so it was the easiest to write. But like maybe emotionally difficult, it might have been Vampire Holly or Number One Girl. That was like when I was really in a dark space.
Are there any songs on the album that almost didn't make it onto the final cut?
These are really good questions, by the way. Almost didn't make it. I think Dance All Night, I did think about it a lot, but I'm really happy I put it in. Probably because we wrote that like years back. It was just from such a separate time. But then that's why we had to find a reason how this would fit well into the album, and that's the last song on the album. And I felt like we go through so much like trauma and heartbreak. I don't want to share too much, but yeah, Dance All Night was kind of written, I would say, in the beginning. And it was like just the start. And like a whole bunch of life happened right after it. And that was the album. So I made sure to put this at the very end of it to kind of give it a little bit of refreshment. So that gives hope to everyone that we still have hope for life and we can reset. That almost didn't make it, but I'm really glad I put that in. I just wanted to be an album where like 10 years later, you listen to it and you're like, oh my God, brings back memories. Because those are my favorite songs, where you like hear a song on the radio and you're like, oh my God, I remember when I used to listen to that song. I was going through this and that. Everyone's like, my favorite is Game Boy. No, mine is Talk. No, 2 years. Like, it's kind of cute to see that. Because I feel that towards myself too. Like it feels like they're all my babies. So I'm like, I can't pick one, but I feel like everyone's doing that. So it's kind of cute.
You have a song on the album called 2 Years.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you give to the Rosie of 2 years ago? And what would you say to the Rosie of 2 years in the future?
Oh, that's a really good question. Wow, these questions. These are the best questions ever in all the interviews I've done. Wow, 2 years ago. How old was I then? People aren't that bad. People aren't that bad. Trust in the universe. You're gonna find great people and you're gonna be okay. And 2 years later, what would I say to myself? 2 years later, I hope you're having fun. I hope you're having the best time of your life and enjoying your last years of your 20s. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you love Toxic Till the End and the rest of the album Rosie. Thank you. Mwah.